This is Infosec Decoded, number 43. Today, stopping ransomware. And so we're starting with Alan, who has the first article about ransomware, of which there are going to be several.
Yes, and I'm really looking forward to Kaitlyn's explainer to us on how to stop ransomware once and for all. But until we reach that moment, maybe this is a good opportunity to learn about exactly how the economics of ransomware are playing out for the ransomware actors. Keela has a really nice posting and a very thorough breakdown of who gets paid what when a successful ransom is delivered. And among the many good points in this article, too many for me to recount here, is a breakdown of who gets what percentage of the payout. And this is what they say. Affiliates get 50% of the payout. The ransomware developers get 20%. Initial access brokers get 10%. Pen testers, that is to say, people who escalate privileges, really, they're not pen testers, they get 10%. And negotiators get 10%. And one of the big points of this article is that negotiators are in high demand right now for ransomware actors, and they get paid very well, apparently.
Yeah, the customer experience team.
Yes, absolutely. And they've got some screenshots of interactions between negotiators and victims. And I have to say, the negotiators are very good at what they do. Like there's one chat in which the victim says, "Hello, please send help for our files." And the negotiator responds, "Hello, this is Conti Locker team. Please introduce yourself, company name, and your position, and we'll provide all necessary information.
Yeah.
Sometimes our staff is busy, but we will reply as soon as possible."
Yeah. I remember other crime kits actually have like a product key and an annual, and you have to pay your subscription or they cancel it. And if you let somebody copy it, they punish you. It's just a mirror image of the above ground economy. All the stuff is there.
Yeah, they're getting to be very professional about it. And internationalization is the next phase of ransomware, where they have fluent speakers in many different languages. In particular, this article cites a recruiting effort to find negotiators who can handle negotiations with a Middle Eastern company.
Yeah.
So, and presumably they're looking for somebody who's fluent in Arabic.
And probably also fluent in the customs so as to avoid offending them and get cooperation.
Yes, that's right, because we're going for a smooth transaction here.
Yeah.
Money is paid, everybody's happy, everyone can get on with their lives. And the ransomware negotiators can demand very good money. In this particular instance, they were talking about $1 to $5 million.
Yeah.
Just for the negotiator.
I remember when the first year, I think it was about 2011, when they said this is the first year when the total amount of bank robbery online exceeded the face-to-face bank robbery. And they said, this is better for everyone. The cops don't get shot. People don't get hit by a driveway car. It's better for the victims, better for the bank, better for the criminals. It's all clean and sanitary, no violence.
But we can't make any good movies from this. They're not nearly as dramatic or interesting.
No, that was a good meme I saw on Twitter a few years ago. They said, here's a movie of hacking, guy staring at the screen. Then 2 hours later, wait, I could. Oh, no, that would never work. Another 2 hours of staring at the screen. That's how it is.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, anyway, all right. And then I got Print Nightmare. I thought this is very good. Splunk is fantastic. Splunk has rules to detect Print Nightmare, which I'm very interested in. I'd like to make a project out of this. They have something, I thought you had to use sysmon, the sysinternals tool, to get data from Windows machines, but Splunk has something called WinHostMon to do host monitoring of services on Windows machines, which I did not know about. And apparently, if you turn that on, it tells you what every process, what every service is doing, and when it loads a DIL and things like that, and you can just watch the service load the malicious DIL. There's like 8 indicators of compromise you can pick up in Splunk. So this sounds bloody awesome. I got to get this going. I've got a whole Splunk training thing. And, I love Splunk. Like I think everybody pretty much loves Splunk, except the people who have to pay. I mean, Splunk is fantastic. It's just really expensive. And, but anyway, I was very happy to see this. And, I think.
I love the name that they chose.
Yeah, yeah, that's a lot. They posted. I pity the spool. Yeah, yes. But anyway, and this Windows spool service is the latest disaster. I mean, it's print nightmare. Microsoft patched it, but they patched it wrong. So they rushed out another patch and they patched it wrong again. So everybody is like hating Microsoft, which is like a really popular activity, like hating Donald Trump. Everybody enjoys hating Microsoft, but presumably they're going to have another patch Tuesday coming up on Tuesday. Maybe they'll actually finally get it patched right. But it's, we're just talking to Jordan before we started here, making software secure is just not as easy as you might think it is. I have more sympathy for Microsoft than some snarky security people might have, or than I would have 20 years ago. Anyway. All right. And so we're down to Kaitlyn, who's got academic corruption.
Yeah, imagine that, academic corruption. Who would have ever thought, with cigarette companies, no less. Actually, I should say e-cigarette companies. So the American Prospect has an article written by David Dayan about Juul, so the Juul company, which apparently has become huge. Like, it's one of the major nicotine.
Even now, because it seemed like e-cigarettes totally died like about a year ago when they decided they're bad for you. I never see anybody use them anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure they're still popular. And so, but yeah, definitely e-cigarettes are having a bit of a publicity issue right now. They were initially touted as an alternative to smoking and much healthier.
Which I thought that was true too, but then a bunch of people got some horrible disease.
Yeah, and then it turns out not so much. And so now Juul is trying to save themselves, much like the early tobacco industry. When people found out that smoking was bad for you, the tobacco industry started going over the moon, trying to convince people that doctors love smoking. They think smoking's the best for you. And one of the things that it had a adverse effect on was people's trust in science, because they would, whenever people say, oh, well, why should we trust scientists? They'll often put up these ads by the cigarette companies saying, your doctor thinks smoking is going to improve your life and everything. So have things changed? Apparently not. Juul has paid a lot of money, not for an article, not for a few articles in a journal, but for the entire journal to publish just their articles telling about how great Juul is and how healthy it is. And the thing is that these are actual academic publications, and it costs like $51,000 to like get access to it and stuff. And you're paying for essentially these advertisements put out by Juul. And yeah, it's the same thing all over again.
Well, I would expect, no, this is like a whole new level of corruption. And I would hope that scientists will like blacklist these guys and never believe what's in that journal again and all that jazz.
You would hope. There are some people who are saying that, well, as long as Juul is open about the fact that they're funding these publications, then it's not technically illegal. But it's like, it doesn't matter, because the harm goes beyond just convincing smokers that smoking is good for you. Like I said, it really erodes the foundation of trust in science when companies try to do this.
Yeah, the American Journal of Health Behavior. If anybody quotes anything from that, don't believe it. Anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, all right. And then Irvin's got Coursera.
Coursera had some bugs from broken object level authorization, GraphQL, REST API, a bunch of other misconfigurations. They're not fully patched yet. They're still patching. So for those of you who are using Coursera for stuff, be careful.
APIs are full of bugs like this. I remember.
That they are.
Now, Coursera is just I've never used it. Have you? It's like a place where you pay so many dollars a month to access their courses, right?
Coursera is just like Canvas and Moodle and all of those. It's a learning platform system.
Yeah, but it's a pay one, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, it's a paid one.
Colleges don't use it, do they?
Some do, especially those who are using the Google search stuff.
Oh, that Google search stuff is on Coursera?
Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe they can get the Google team to help fix their API, because Google's no slouch.
Right.
All right, and then Jordan is our guest today, and she's got something about Toyota. Oh, this one, yeah.
Yeah, hello. So Toyota, the largest Japanese automaker, announced yesterday that their political action committee will halt donations to US members of Congress who voted against Joe Biden's election certification in January, Woo! So let's see, on June 23rd, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics and Washington CREW, which is an ethics watchdog commission, they reported that Toyota had contributed 56,000, the most of any company, to 38 of the 147 Republican lawmakers who voted against the results. So that disclosure definitely prompted some criticism, and within that backlash, Toyota listened to the stakeholders and decided to put an indefinite halt on donations. So a win's a win. I'll take it.
Yeah, I remember when they decided to donate to them, I was thinking this is probably a hard-nosed, cynical calculation. There was another company, I think it was Boeing, started donating to them. I said, if you're going to be a military contractor, you have to make sure that the government that comes into power loves you. And, I don't think they're wrong about that. It looks like Republicans are going to take the House again in 2022 and very likely the White House after that. And so you certainly don't want to take a firm stand against Republicans if you want to stay in business.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Toyota, they have plants in most of the kind of Midwest and Southern states where a lot of these donations, happen to go, coincidentally.
This is the problem when your society gets split like ours. Everybody doesn't know what side to be on. It's like what's happening in Afghanistan right now. Anyway, because a lot of people would just like to stay out of politics and do business, but that's not really an option anymore.
Yeah, I don't think that's possible. I think that's so intertwined and people don't want to open their eyes up to that. So politics are everywhere.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you're a national company or an international company, you really need to dodge all the politics because you got customers on both sides.
Yeah, I guess you got to play the politics very well.
I guess, and they're trying to do it. Anyway, so Alan's hacking Starlink.
Well, me personally, no, because I don't have $450 to blow on a Starlink satellite dish. But some researchers at Belgian University. What's that?
I think Liz has one.
Oh, yes, that's right. But hopefully she's using it productively and not just tearing it down.
What could be more productive than tearing it down?
Well, I don't know. The possibility that you lose your $450 investment and need to buy another one.
A small price to pay.
I guess so. But fortunately, some researchers at Belgian University, KU Leuven, have done exactly that. They've not only torn one apart, but they've managed to dump the firmware, which is a first. We've heard about some research into these SpaceX Starlink satellite dishes on this podcast before, but these researchers have actually managed to dump the firmware, which is a first. And it's a good write-up. They explain how they did it. It's not trivial. They weren't able to just use bin walk on it. There is some complexity to it because clearly the engineers there at SpaceX have tried to make it a little more challenging. Unfortunately for the rest of us, the researchers did not just publish that firmware for obvious reasons. SpaceX probably wouldn't be too happy with them. So we'll have to leave it to somebody else and somebody bolder to publish the firmware. But it sounds like
I guess it's proprietary stuff. That would be breaking a law to publish it, right?
Well, right. And now a lot of it is not proprietary, which is how these researchers were able to dump the firmware in the first place. Because in part because SpaceX had to publish the code in compliance with the terms. GPL, I believe. GPL licensing. Yeah. But at any rate, it seems like a really interesting project, and it seems like there's some interesting stuff going on inside this too. So we'll give it a little while, and hopefully somebody else will publish the firmware, and who knows, maybe we can hack these dishes just like those old cable TV dish network.
Well, it's got a secure element, which I didn't expect. That's going to hold. Yeah. That's going to be, if they're using that correctly, that's going to slow you down.
Yeah. There's a lot of engineering that went into this. It is not a trivial project.
No, good. All right. And so Chime is a San Francisco banking app. I was not aware of this, but people who cannot get a bank account, presumably because of bad credit or they're very, very broke, there's this company called Chime, which is a financial services company, which is not a bank. It's an app you put on your phone, and you can use it even without a bank account, and it passes the money on to a real bank behind them. That is the real bank doing it all. And so they got all these people who apparently got their COVID stimulus check, and they didn't have a bank account. So they all got on Chime. It's apparently huge, like 10% as big as Wells Fargo. And now they feel like they have a bank account, but they don't. So Chime has now started freezing a bunch of accounts and taking the money, like a lot. There are more complaints about them at the Better Business Bureau and the government offices than Wells Fargo that is 10 times bigger. And people are very, very, very upset. And they say, they just try to spend their money, and Chime says, your account has been frozen. Call our customer support. And they're like, yeah, you can't get anybody on the phone. We have nothing to say to you, and you can't have your money. And they're like, wait, that's my money. What? So people are getting very upset. And apparently the page is pretty deceptive, makes you feel like they're a bank. And the bank they actually pass it on to is saying it's not our job to audit these transactions. And Chime is saying we're not a bank, so we're not subject to banking regulations. So this sounds really, really shady, like cryptocurrency. I would hope that we're going to have lawsuits or federal compliance regulations or something move in here to do something about this. Anyway, I was not aware of this. This is ProPublica, who has a lot of these good exposés of shady practices. So that Chime thing sounds like it's pretty much a ripoff. Anyway, then we got Kaitlyn with human trials of a flu shot.
Yes, flu shots back in the news again.
Well, I would like to get a real flu shot that works. That would be awesome.
Yes, it would be awesome. And in fact, this was a new type of flu shot that should be more effective. So The Verge has an article written by Nicole Westman talking about Moderna and how they are using the same mRNA technology that was used to create the coronavirus vaccine to now start working on flu vaccines. So traditionally, the way that vaccines worked is, well, initially it came from like cow pus and really gross stuff. Now it's slightly less gross. Basically what they do is they grow the influenza in chicken yolk, essentially, and then kill the virus and then inject that into you, which is not very pleasant when you think about it, but it's very analog, old fashioned. But this new mRNA vaccine stuff that we developed during COVID is pretty awesome. And so it looks like Moderna is going to move forward on engineering their vaccines moving forward, which should, in theory, be more effective. They'll be able to get it out sooner. But also, one of the big benefit of using mRNA is that they could have one vaccine that does the flu, the coronavirus, and any other respiratory infection, all in a single shot. So
then you could start smoking Juul.
Right. Then the only thing that could possibly kill you at that point is Juul. So.
Or you could put that stuff in the Juul. Then it would really be good for you.
Oh,
That
yeah.
would be awesome. Get it through your e-cigarette.
Exactly. Anyway, I think this is great. I've heard that they also want to make cancer drugs based on this mRNA stuff.
Yeah. So it's turning out to be very useful. And a lot of times this is how technological progress happens. There's some sort of emergency, some sort of need for some new technology, and then that gets developed, and then people go, wait, we can put this in other things. Like, for example, when the US had the space race, all these technologies are being developed to get people to the moon so that the United States could beat Russia. But then it turns out, hey, we could use this thing that we invented for the seats into mattresses and stuff. And it's like, ooh, cool.
And
our computers and stuff. Yes.
All right. And so Irvin's got more. The print nightmare patch. Yeah.
Yeah, the print nightmare patch can be bypassed by using UNC. So even though Microsoft put out a patch that's supposed to fix this, a simple way to get right around it is using UNC.
Well, their patch sounds ridiculous. They just look for the pattern of the attack, starting with //. This is nothing more than what you put in an IDS. This is so far from like a root cause analysis. This is like filtering quotes to block SQL injection, which is famously very, very, very ineffective.
Yep. So if you patch thinking you're fine, you're not.
Well, to be fair, if you have that kind of defense, it does stop the one exact attack that people might be using. But it's not really patching the underlying vulnerability. This reminds me of people that made encrypted USB sticks, and all they meant was they weren't encrypted, but when you plugged them in a Windows machine, it would pop up a box and ask you for a password. If you plug them into a Linux machine, you can just totally read the data. But that is a layer of defense. It's not a very strong defense, but it does mean that if somebody picks it up on the sidewalk and they just try reading it, they will probably fail 80% of the time. Anyway, I've got more patience with weak defenses than I used to have. In a way, weak defenses are all we ever have. Whatever you do, a few years from now, somebody will hack it. Anyway.
So this can knock out the lowest hanging fruit.
Exactly. But, you know, you would think, especially since Microsoft already failed last time, that they would actually like do a root cause analysis and fix the problem. But so far, that has totally not happened.
So we hope.
Yep. All right. And Jordan has got TikTok.
Okay, so this is from Sharon Pruitt-Young of NPR. Black creators on TikTok have joined a widespread strike over what some are criticizing as cultural appropriation on the video app. So I believe this is month 2. The hashtag Black TikTok strike has been viewed more than 2 million times on TikTok, with users sharing videos of, I like this, less inspired dances that have popped up in the absence of Black creators. So I thought it might, you know, cultural appropriation, nothing new. TikTok has only been around since 2016. So I think it's just good to point out that it's already emerged as an example of how new forms of technology are being used as tools for cultural appropriation. So we'll kind of see where this goes. Ultimately, I think the goal is that, you know, TikTok is kind of like, well, hopefully the normal will become giving credit where it's due, which, you know, I could totally get on board with that. So yeah, just kind of interesting.
Well, this is a really old problem. I remember the producer that found Elvis said, what we need is a white man that can sing like a black man.
Exactly. That's kind of where my whole gripe with this started, was because I'm a big blues rock fan. And that was kind of the first time where it's like, wow, this is totally just a ripoff. So, you know, when will people, you know, kind of get it through their heads that all you have to do, at least for now, is give credit where it's due. So.
Well, I think there's a real issue here. I remember almost every major rock hit is like the third take. And if you listen to the original author to play the song, it's not much good. Often the remake is better than the original.
Yeah, I guess that's also access, though, at least in that case, like studio, like equipment accessibility, because I like listening to the, you know, old kind of scratchy blues takes, and it's just like, wow, that dude was just like sitting on his front porch, like he probably made that guitar, you know, with whatever he found around there. So
yep.
But yeah, long-standing problem. So it's just interesting to see how it develops as new technology platforms are continued to be.
TikTok is really important. I mean, I can't not understand TikTok. I'm probably too old, but it really seems to be a hotbed of creativity.
Yeah, for sure. To be honest, I'm not on TikTok. I've got people around me who are, so I get little doses here and there, but
everybody tells me TikTok is the new hotness, and it appears to be true.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then we got Alan with FileSec.
Yeah, filesec.io is a new website that attempts to provide a comprehensive listing of all file extensions. Tries to. They only have 83 different file extensions at present, but it's brand new, and it's a pretty good listing of at least the common file extensions. And so people can go to this website and find this odd file that's, let's say, an email attachment, and they're unfamiliar with the file extension, and they can see how it can be potentially be abused and used for, say, dropping malware on their computer. So this is kind of along the lines of, say, Gary Kessler's file signatures database. It's not nearly as extensive or comprehensive, but it's growing. It's been around for just a few weeks, and it's already picked up a number of new additions. So for somebody who's interested in, say, incident response or forensics, or just an average user who's unfamiliar with a particular file extension, then this is a good resource.
Yeah, and I like the way you can filter by the type of attack. It reminds me a little bit of the attack framework, which I'm a big fan of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good feature, and also lists out which operating systems tend to use the given extension.
Yeah. All right, and I've got I was happy to read this by Nouriel Roubini, a real economist from, I think, New York University. And he's saying what I've been waiting for somebody to say. I mean, inflation's coming back. We're going to repeat the 1970s. I mean, we're creating a disaster economically here. This is why I wish there was an actual Republican Party that dwelled in reality, because they need somebody to push back on what the Democrats are doing, where you just print a bunch of money and spend it like there's no tomorrow. And a bunch of economists saying, oh, no, there's no problem. You can just print money and not pay for it at all, and everything will be fine. I'm like, dude, that is not going to be fine. We've been here before. That's what led to the French Revolution. That's what led to disaster in the 70s. I mean, you can't just print a pile of money and not have any taxes and pretend it's fine. But we're totally on that road. And this guy has an intelligence article about it here in The Guardian, which says, but what he says, which I think is also right, is everybody, both the right and the left, have decided it's fine to just spend money without paying for it. They're hell-bent on doing that. The only difference is the Republicans want to give it to the rich people and the Democrats want to give it to the poor people, but they're both perfectly fine running endless deficits. And he said it's going to lead to its 1970s sort of stagflation, where you have a lack of jobs and rapid inflation. And I think that's probably true. So I'm still thinking the best predictor of the future is what happened in the 20s. We're going to have the roaring 20s. Everybody's going to think they're rich because of some complete nonsense like meme stocks or cryptocurrency, where they feel rich because they have this meaningless number in fluff. And then it's all going to crash and they're all going to be totally broke. So that's why I say, I guess the best thing you could do is like lead a normal life, have a normal job, keep a normal amount of money, not get involved in the chaos, and ride it out. That's my recommendation. There's going to be a lot of stupidity coming, and all this stimulus money is making people do lots of stupid things with their money. Anyway, but there doesn't seem to be any motion to think that way in modern politics. Anyways, and Kaitlyn, this is what I thought was awesome, and decided that Kaitlyn had this article on what can be done to stop ransomware. And I was actually cynical enough to complain about it, but then I decided we had some real solutions for ransomware here. So let's hear it, Kaitlyn.
Right. So PBS has the quintessential why ransomware attacks are on the rise and what can be done to stop them. Yeah. And people have been writing these articles for weeks now, talking about all the things that they think is the reason why we have ransomware, what we can do to solve it. Yeah. And so PBS's solution is, well, one, stop paying the ransomware people, which, okay, fair enough. But, they also put the blame on Bitcoin. So, if we just got rid of Bitcoin, that might be a good idea. So I want to go a little over with their steps. I mean, that's a good starting point. But there's another article by Salon in which a Florida man has a much better idea. We just get rid of computers altogether and just use pen and paper from now on.
That would totally work.
That would totally get rid of ransomware. It's like problem solved. And so that's fine. However, there's an even better thing around the corner that might be coming up. For those of you that voted for the sweet meteor of death in the past few elections, I have some good news for you. Apophis, the asteroid that was looking like it might strike in like the 2030s, looks like it really might strike in 2068. And it is a big asteroid. It might not wipe out the entire human population, but it's certainly big enough to wipe out ransomware. So we have tons of solutions around the corner that we could totally use to get rid of ransomware once and for all.
I think these are real solutions that would work. I mean, other people have boring things like change your password, get a firewall, and that's not going to do it the way Apophis would. I mean, that will really fix the problem.
Yes, anyway. Absolutely. That'll cause a giant tsunami that will wipe out all of Google, and anything in California could be potentially just wiped off the face of the earth. So yeah, perfect.
There might be some disadvantages, but it would stop ransomware. Yeah. Anyway, all right. And so Irvin has got pfSense. Is pfSense going to stop ransomware? I don't think so.
You guys are just too much sometimes. No, pfSense won't stop ransomware, but there is an update to the CE version of pfSense, which is used commonly in like VMs and other simple little systems. So there's an update if you haven't seen it already.
Anything exciting about it?
You can do WireGuard now.
Well, yeah, I'm surprised they haven't got that built in for a while.
It's based off of Unix, so it's going to take some time.
I thought WireGuard was in the kernel a while ago. Maybe I'm.
It has been there a while ago, but it's slowly spreading.
WireGuard is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I actually like it. Very easy.
Oh, yeah. I know. I used to use OpenVPN, and it's really hard to set up. Very annoying. WireGuard is much easier and more secure, I think.
Yeah. So now you can do WireGuard on pfSense.
Yeah.
Among a bunch of other things, like it can work now with more hardware than it could before.
Well, that's good.
So I find this really weird because I've been running OpenSense for a while now, and I've always had the option to run WireGuard. Why is pfSense suddenly now getting it?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't OpenSense a fork of pfSense or something?
Yes, yeah.
Well, the child exceeds the master. Anyway.
I guess it's so.
All right, and so the last one is Jordan with an autonomous challenge.
Yeah, so this is from Gregory Leporati, Ars Technica. So I came across the Indy Autonomous Challenge, which will be a competition set for October 23rd, in which driverless cars will race wheel to wheel around the IMS, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, at potential speeds of more than 180 miles per hour, which I think sounds pretty fun. The IMS paired up with Energy Systems Network, which is an Indianapolis-based nonprofit. And ultimately, they are seeking to significantly advance the safety and speed of autonomous vehicles. So, like I said, I think that's a pretty fun approach. The article kind of goes into interviews with the engineering students. So this is a university level competition, but the automobile robot somewhere in between, it's the AV21. It was created by 37 different, partner contributions. They didn't go into too many of the technical specs there, but it looks just like your typical Indy car. It has like the Dallara chassis, but instead of the driver in the cockpit, there's basically a supercomputer. So should be should be interesting.
And you
The
win
computers are taking our jobs.
$1 million prize. I mean,
Yeah, it is $1 million prize. Maybe it'll be like that one. The chess master who goes against the AI one day. We'll have some kind of racing professional take on the AI Indy car. So
yeah, no, that might be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for this one. And next week, we're going to do it Monday evening because we're teaching classes early in the morning. So we'll be back Monday evening.